What's up, Houston Illini? Welcome to the 3-in-1 show, where we feature a variety of University of Illinois alumni who are now thriving right here in Houston, Texas. My name is Brian Crawford. I'm a graduate of Illinois from 2008, and today our featured guest is the founder and CEO of and consulting psychologist at RC Warner Consulting. Real quick before we get started, our 3-in-1 show, our three-part show is called the 3-in-1 show, and that's to honor the Illinois 3-in-1 halftime tradition. We also like to break up our show into three distinct parts as well. We'll talk to our guest about how they chose the University of Illinois, what their experience was like when they were there, and then what brought them to Houston, what their career path looks like today. So please, no matter how you're watching, please subscribe. Make sure you don't miss any of the other shows coming up. So without further ado, I'd love to introduce our guest, Dr. Ryan Warner. Welcome to the show, sir.
Thanks, Brian. I'm really excited to be here today.
Yeah, and I'm really excited to meet you, talk to you. But pre-show, was doing some research, man. You got so much going on. I'm really excited to hear about it. But let's start at the beginning. Tell us about your hometown, where you grew up. Let's see. You said Homewood area, right?
Yep, Homewood, Illinois, so suburb of Chicago. And right after high school, my family, a lot of people in my family went to the University of Illinois. So it was always my dream to go to that school. My dad, my aunts, uncles, and all of them were putting in my brain from a young age, hey, you get to go to U of I, right? So that was definitely top of my list. And fortunately, I was able to get in, and rest is history.
Yeah, I think like me, I had a bunch of orange and blue clothes growing up, so it just kind of stuck. Had a continuation of that. I am curious, is I like to understand as far as what you are doing now. Were you always on that track? Did you know that's the direction you wanted to go with your career, like way back before college?
Mm-hmm. No, I really didn't think about being a psychologist or entrepreneur, but I always knew that I was an independent thinker. And I knew that, I had big dreams in life. I just didn't know what they were back then. I was really passionate about sports. In high school, I ran track and ran cross country, played some AAU basketball, even did a little football. And I really, was passionate about health and wellness. So I thought I always wanted to be a physical therapist.
Yeah.
So actually, at the University of Illinois, I was a part-time physical therapist at a location right off campus, and that part-time job actually propelled me to look into, hey, what is actually a psychologist, and what does a psychologist do? Because I used to help individuals with they have mobility challenges, and ultimately help them engage in different exercises so they can strengthen their physical health. And during that time, under the supervision of a physical therapist, I began talking to these clients and these patients. And they began to say, hey, I broke my leg, and now I'm not able to engage in activities that I enjoy. And that's really causing me to feel kind of down and feeling kind of anxious. And I would just listen to them. I would validate them. I would empathize with them. And then they would end their rehabilitation and they would say, Ryan, you really helped me physically, through the exercises that we went through. But I really appreciate you just being there for me emotionally and being a listening ear, when I just vented about the issues that I'm going through in my life. So right then and there, I recognized that connection between our physical and our mental, and how we need to both optimize both parts of our lives so that we can reach our optimal health. So I looked into what is a psychologist, and then I chose that trajectory moving forward.
So when you went in knowing health, wellness type of thing to college. What year was it when you decided, like, psychology, man, I'm going to try that track?
So it's interesting. So I only took one psychology course undergrad. So
Okay.
my major was community health with a focus on rehabilitation.
All right.
And I actually didn't do well in my first psychology 101 course. I actually had to take it at a community college because it was too hard at U of I for me. My grades
That's
were
I heard that's a weed out class, Psych 100 or whatever.
yeah. So
Yeah.
I said okay grades, but ultimately, I chose community health with a focus on rehabilitation.
Mm.
So with that, I didn't know what I wanted to do right after, but I knew that hey, I need to either go back to school or get a job, right? So right after graduation, I immediately went to get my master's degree in rehabilitation psychology from University of Wisconsin-Madison. So another, huge Big Ten university, and was there 2 years. And then during that experience, I recognized, hey, I want to go the PhD route and be a licensed clinical psychologist.
Well, okay, so we're taking the rest of the conversation off campus because I'm really interested in what you do now. Um, it seems like you've just kind of continued to stack on layers of how you're wanting to help people. Talk to me about that. What was your journey like as you were building this up in your head? Because you seem to have this big vision. Like, talk to me about what's step one there for you?
Yeah, I think step one is like, what is my why? Okay, so you can see behind me, one of my favorite books, Start With Why by Simon Sinek. And I've always been thinking about my why, for a while, I think starting in high school. So what's my purpose here? I know that I'm here for a bigger purpose, and not only to just help people, but to make a difference and make a lasting impact on the world. And I didn't know really how that would look, as a clinical psychologist. And as an independent thinker, I always wanted to start my own thing. I want to be, start my own business. And I think that independent thought that I engaged in just as a young age, I recognized that I don't think a 9 to 5 really fits me and my personality. Right, I like doing my own thing. Sometimes I like coming up with ideas and just going after it. And so right after I obtained my PhD, I was actually an active duty military psychologist.
Yeah.
And it's very structured, large bureaucracy, right? So you follow command, right? You have people you reported to. And I actually thrived in that environment. But I recognized that there was so much more that I wanted to do, even though I did find some fulfillment in that role. So that's when I started my own business in 2020. And my goal was to improve inclusion and wellness in the workplace. Because I saw and talking to a lot of people within the military that a lot of their stressors were related to their work. Okay. And especially if they identified as a person of color or a person of a historically marginalized background, they experienced additional stress. So I looked at this intersection between inclusion and belonging and also emotional, psychological wellness. And I saw this gap that not a lot of individuals were feeling. And I started solely just engaging in speaking engagements. People would hire me off base, and they would pay me to just come out and speak for an hour. And I was like, hey, this is kind of cool. This is really fun. I get to convey my message to an audience to make a difference. And yeah, from there, COVID hit, started my own business, and moving forward, almost 3 years later, we've worked on 6 out of 7 continents across the globe, worked with organizations like the United Nations, IRS, U.S. Embassy, and ultimately, continuing to enhance inclusion and wellness in the workplace so that everyone can thrive.
How has what you were speaking about originally changed from what you speak about today, or is it any different?
Hmm. Yeah, great question. So I started off solely speaking about microaggressions in the workplace. So my dissertation and my PhD program was on microaggressions and how that impacts Black students. And I saw these microaggressions are like subtle, covert forms of discrimination directed towards people of color and historically marginalized groups. And I saw that even when I went to work, when I was in the military, people would look at me and they would question, "Oh, you're an officer. I wouldn't think that you have, that much rank," because they would see me as a Black male, and there were only a few Black male officers on the entire Air Force installation with 20,000 plus people. So I would get these little subtle microaggressions. And I'll see how it impact me. Sometimes I doubt it myself. Sometimes I ask myself, hey, am I meant to be here? Right. I will consult with, very senior leaders within the military. And they would be looking at me like, hey, you look kind of young to be telling me what I need to be doing. I have 40 plus years of experience. Right. And you're right out of school. Right. So sometimes, that impacted me, and I began to sometimes internalize those thoughts. So I started to talk about how microaggressions impact people and what we can do to mitigate the impact microaggressions have. And then it grew from, hey, let's talk about overall wellness and how to mitigate burnout, right? And stress management. Hey, let's also go into leadership development, right? Because that's essential for people to feel that they belong and that they thrive in the workplace. We need good leaders, right? What does that even look like? So it then progressed into other areas, involving like leadership development as well as inclusion and belonging.
How are you? Leadership seems to be a passion of yours, and if anybody scans your LinkedIn, that's one of the common themes and common threads. But coaching, leading, guiding, right? Like what in your mind, psychology wise and mindset wise, like how are you helping build those leaders?
Great. So with that, I mean, so as a psychologist, I'm an expert of human behavior, right? So we think about team dynamics, when we think about how do we go into an organization and ensure that they're meeting their goal, okay, whatever their goal is, whether if they're a Fortune 500 company, whether they're a government entity, not-for-profit, right? And leaders, oftentimes, they're experts in their particular industry, but sometimes they're not aware of how their emotions impact their ability to interact with their team members. Sometimes they are not don't have that emotional intelligence to recognize when they're burnout, right, and how that's actually being projected onto those that are report to them. Okay, um, and then also sometimes they're not aware of how do we inspire and invigorate everybody within the organization so that they can feel they belong, feel that they actually engage in the mission so that we can have the best output and performance. Okay. So as a expert of human behavior, that gave me the foundation to go into these organizations to help them learn about human behavior a little bit better, to help them strengthen team dynamics so they can be more profitable and enhance their organizational effectiveness. So I think it just naturally gave me those transferable skill sets to make a difference in organizations worldwide.
Seems like every organization, if you're going to go into it, it's got one really hardened guy. I'm not thinking about anything different. This is how we do it. You can't tell me. And how are you getting? How are you cracking into their, or I guess opening up the conversation with them? Like, hey, let's think about mindset. Let's think about the impact of these decisions on the people and the pressure and everything like that. Because I believe, I believe that burnout's real. I've seen it. Like, I think we've all experienced it to an extent, right? Um, and for me, in my experiences, it does start at the top in the leadership circle. So I'm curious, like, I guess when you're going in, how are you approaching that business and what are you talking about with them?
Mhm. So change is hard, right? Change is hard for all of us. As human beings, we like to be able to anticipate what's
Mm.
next. Okay. If not, that creates some anxiety. So that's the same thing in organizations. So when I come in as an external consultant, my job is to quote unquote fix whatever is going on. Okay? And that's kind of off-putting for a lot of people. They're like, "Who's this guy?" Right? Coming into my organization, telling me I need to change and do something different. So
Yeah.
first, you have to create buy-in, and you have to create trust. Okay. So for instance, right now I work with Fortune 500 companies like in Houston area, and they're very high performing. Right? They know how to make billions of dollars a year. However, when it comes to continuing to improve, right, sometimes they're stuck in their ways because like, hey, this has worked. Why should we change this? So helping them recognize, no, here's a gap. Here's statistics or here's some data to show if you're able to quote unquote fix this issue or mitigate the impact this issue has, then you can be even more profitable. You can actually create more impact. You can have less issues with retention, right? So recognizing what is the gap that helps create buy-in, then also create that trust, right? And in turn, that's how you get organizations on board. And on an individual perspective, that's how we also change. I don't know about you, but when it's January 1st, all I hear is, "Hey, new year, new me," right? People identify a gap in their life and they say, "Hey, let's try to fix this." And sometimes it doesn't last. Most of the time, it doesn't last past 2 weeks. That change you're trying to make. So, bringing me in as an expert coach and executive coach and thought leader, I'm able to help organizations and individuals not just change for the short term, but change for the long term so they can reach their potential.
how much when you've identified, when you're talking to an individual and you've identified the issue, or whether they've identified the issue, what is that next couple of steps look like for them to kind of um, attack the issue?
Yeah. So I'll give you a background. So in my executive coaching work, I work with high performing professionals
Mhm.
and help them improve, their wellness, help them mitigate burnout, help them improve their emotional intelligence. So like when working in that capacity, we first, identify that gap. Hey, if we're able to close this gap, how would that impact other parts of your life? Maybe you can be more present, as a parent at home. Maybe you can be, a better leader at work. Maybe you can find more satisfaction in life. So we identify those gaps, then we identify some goals, and then we identify how do we mitigate barriers. Okay, because it's easy to come up with goals. It's harder to figure out how do you reduce, these hurdles that may arise, right? So once we're able to do that, I use evidence-based practices to ultimately guide, the approach that I take, and in turn, we're able to improve the likelihood we get to those goals and achieve them if we're able to mitigate those barriers. So some barriers could be time, right? I don't have time to think about my mental health. I got to keep going, right? I got kids to provide for, right? I got to put food on the table, right? Or maybe, hey, I have never stopped to be mindful, right? I'm always thinking about the next thing that has served me in my profession because I've been very successful, but it hasn't served me maybe at home. And I'm seeing the impact that has, right, with my kids, for instance, or my spouse, right? So identifying that pain point for people, and then giving them tools, and then helping them actually see those results, that keeps people wanting to continue to get engaged. So,
Give me an example of some tools that you might give to one of those high level execs you're talking about.
mhm. So one thing that frequently comes up is about multitasking. Hey, if
Okay.
I'm able to do 10 things at once, then I'm more efficient. However, research shows that that's actually not the case because that actually accelerates burnout. And in turn, I can go really hard for 2 weeks, but then guess what? That third week, I'm really tired and fatigued, right? And now that impacts my personal and professional life. So instead, what we know is if we're able to take a mindful moment each day, right, at the top of the day, at our end of our day, in turn, that helps center us, slow us down, it gives us more control over our external situation instead of letting our external situation control us. Okay. So there's one thing that I practice as a high performing, executive myself. Well, what I do is if I have 100 things on my plate, I prioritize. Okay. And then identify what's the thing I need to accomplish right now. Okay.
One thing.
One thing at a time. And then give my 100% into that one task. And in turn, I look at my productivity and it is way higher than if I would say, hey, let me work on this right now, this right now, this right now. Right. And being able to take that mindful moment. Right. For me, it's at the top of each hour. I take 5 minutes at the top of every single hour during my workday to just collect myself, to do something that's not involving work. And that in turn helps me create more emotional stability, and it helps reduce burnout in the long term. So those are just like practical techniques and strategies that research has shown to be helpful, and also people have implemented in life to be more effective and improve their performance.
Yeah, there's the what is it called? Like I think it's the Eisenhower chart where it's the most important, most urgent matrix, right? Like,
Hmm.
or you think about it like the 80-20 rule where 20% is 80% impactful, right? There's got to be some sort of way that you're helping people in terms of like whether it's urgent, important. This is your highest, best use of time. Throw in the mindfulness piece, whether that's that 5 minute reset, um, focus time. Is it a whole bunch of things all into one in practice, or is it one thing implemented at a time?
Hmm. Yeah, great questions. I mean, it's different for everybody, but I mean, we know that taking small, sustainable steps, that's how you actually create behavioral change in the long
Right.
run.
Okay.
Okay. So, um,
It's a
if I'm
habit stack, right?
yeah. And if I'm able to pair something with what I already do, then that's going to improve the likelihood that I'm able to do it more long term. So if I say, hey, I need to enhance my physical activity, but maybe I haven't went to the gym in a year. It's not going to be helpful for me to say I'm going to go to the gym 5 days a week now. Instead, I'm going to say, hey, I walk my dog every single day. no matter if it's raining or snowing outside. Okay. Maybe I could just add 10 minutes to that walk. Okay. And that's going to improve my physical activity, help me get more steps in throughout the day, and in turn, help me get to my goals. So that right there, pairing something with what I already do, that's how I'm going to be able to enhance my wellness and create more sustainable change. So that's another example of just behavioral change strategies that can be helpful both personally and professionally.
So I think whether we're on um, being more productive or being more efficient, right now. Talk to me about somebody comes to you and says, "Jiminy Christmas, I got 1,000 things on my to-do list. I'm so stressed out. Everything is urgent. Everything's important. Everything is crazy. I can't even think." I know if you've had it. I mean, honestly, if you had a job, everybody has experienced that at some point. What are you talking to them about?
Mhm. First, I want to go back to that why. What is their why? What are they working for? Are they just trying to get by each and every day? Or do they see something bigger in their life? Right? Are they just trying to put food on the table? So trying to identify what motivates them and
Okay.
tapping into that. Okay, because I can give them techniques all day. Okay, we know that maybe we shouldn't be consuming unhealthy food. Right? Like everybody knows this, but we still do. Why is
Right.
that? Right? Maybe that's not our priority right now. It's not a big deal. But if I give you a why that's going to motivate you and fuel you and propel that change, then you're going to be more invested in it. So I would probably spend time working with that individual, identify what is their why, what pushes them to keep going, right? Tap into that and use that for motivation to help them improve parts of their life.
Forgive me if you've kind of already dropped this in at different moments, but what is your why?
Yeah, great question. So my why is to make a lasting impact on the world by improving inclusion and wellness in workplaces worldwide. Okay, we spend most of our lives at work. Okay, we if we look at how we spent our last 10 years, right? If we've been in the profession for that long, right? Most of it has been either at work or at school, right? We're always doing something, get to the next thing. And I've seen so much how people live their entire lives and then they meet with me, when they're 70 years old and say, I've let 50 years of my life just go by with work. And I haven't been there for my family and I haven't been able to do hobbies that I enjoy. And I haven't been able to actually even enjoy my money, right? I haven't been able to travel. I haven't been able to, do things that fill me up, and they come to me at this point. And, so I want to be able to help individuals get ahead of that curve, help people not only be productive at work, but feel fulfilled in the work that they do. And also, just improve their overall life satisfaction. So I do that by improving wellness, but also enhancing inclusion, right? Because we know issues related to diverse equity and inclusion have a significant impact on our well-being as well. Whether that be if we identify as a person with disability, whether that be if we identify as a woman or a person of color, right? We bring our full selves to the workplace, and that influences how we engage with others. So I want to ensure that no matter what background you have, that you are able to feel that you belong in the workplace and able to reach your personal and professional potential. So that's my why. That's what guides all the work that I do.
I've had so many thoughts right now as you were talking to, and first of all, let's track this all the way back to that moment when you started asking people how they're doing during their physical therapy, right? Like this is back in college, and this is this mass decision that's led you to this point. Um, and mindset affects body, but the mindset and the mind also affects like your work performance on an everyday basis, right? So, um, that's leading to this question. In its most common thread, when you go into a place, what seems to be the most prevalent baseline issue for I don't know, just overall job satisfaction or personal things? What's coming up when you're talking to people the most?
Mhm. So what's coming up the most, number one, not in particular order, but the first thing that comes up is limited time. Uh, Number two, I would say feeling overwhelmed, burned out, right? And then I think number three is not feeling included or that they belong in the workplace. Now, those I've seen when I engage in individual coaching. Okay. And if I look at the research and the data, research also shows that those were one of the top concerns as well. Um, and I may be missing a couple, but those are three things that I've seen mostly. Now, it may be due to the clientele that I work with as well, because I work with majority people of color. The people who reach out to me are high performing professionals of color. Maybe they're the only person who looks like them in their entire organization or their entire senior leadership role, right? So so I look at my clientele, so it may be kind of skewed in that regard. But in general, I know research shows that 83% of individuals feel that they are burned out currently, right now in the workplace, across all industries. Okay, so that's a statistic that's out there, and that's significant. So whether you're a real estate agent, right, or whether you're a financial advisor, whether you're in the healthcare field, a nurse, right? I mean, we're all feeling that. Okay, so those are some challenges that I see.
How is that? Take those three main buckets. I've kind of heard pair that with your why. So what's the future as it applies to your career, this business going forward? How are you tackling those?
Mm-hmm. So we tackle that through our customized and innovative coaching and consulting and speaking solutions that we offer. And a lot of that is on my website, www.rcwarnerconsulting.com. And ultimately, we do that as well through partnering with other thought leaders in the field. We have expanded our team. We have consultants that are placed in different parts of the U.S. We also have internship team as well, in which we bring new and young, future leaders, in the field, and they're able to engage with us on projects and provide additional diverse perspectives. So we do that by partnering. We do that by, through our innovative type of solutions that we offer, as well as we take a customized approach with every organization, individual that we work with. So we identify what is your pain point, what issue are you experiencing related to inclusion and related to wellness in your workplace. And then ultimately being able to help them not only short term, but also help them in the long term has been helpful with our success thus far. So. It seems like you're muted now.
Oh, sorry about that. I'm saying you have a great mission. It also seems like you have a crazy big body of work, considering 83% of people, is what you said, was overwhelmed or stressed in the workplace.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah, there's every day is always interesting. But with that, I mean, there's so much more work to be done. I look at this as a journey, not a destination. I don't think there's one thing that you're going to do to fix that issue, right? There's systemic changes that need to happen. There's also interpersonal and intrapersonal changes that need to occur as well, right? So a lot of our solutions, are tailored to that multi-faceted approach. But yeah, there's always going to be challenges out there, and our job is to make it a little bit easier for organizations and individuals so they can reach their potential.
So somebody that's graduating from Illinois this year, right now, or just graduated this weekend, they're about to jump into the workplace. Is there, for the most part, none of them have had full-time jobs yet. This is their first foray into that.
Mm-hmm.
What kind of practices are you going start this?
I would say continue to check in with yourself. So take that intrapersonal perspective that I just hinted at. And ultimately that just means like looking within, right? Asking yourself, what is your why? What motivates you? Yes, maybe you just want to get a check, after 4 years of school, but what else is motivating you? Where do you see your future to look like? It doesn't have to be your specific job role or a company that you're going to work at, but or business you want to start. But what is the larger mission, that you want to reach towards? So I would tell everybody to do that.
that sounds like to me too, like, as you're trying to for everybody in college, like as you're trying to pick your track, like let's look at the trajectory of what my life could look like. Let's look at from a this industry or this sort of practice, or I want to be an engineer, or I want to be a whatever. Um, does that track back to your why, or is
Mhm.
this going to give you what you want to accomplish in your life? And that's such an interesting thing because I think everybody just does it backwards. Let's just go get my first job and see what happens, and then they end up in an industry. Then you go down a path, right? So I
Mhm.
love that.
Yep.
Um, this is usually the time where we give our guests time to talk about something they're particularly passionate about and something they're involved in. Obviously, you have your own consulting company, but is there anything else that you really would like anybody watching and listening to hear?
Definitely. So a lot of the work that we do occurs like within the organizations, but I also do a lot of work that I put out there for just basic consumers, like individuals. Okay, whether you're employed or you're not employed, whether you're in school or you're not in school, right? And when it comes to mental health and mental wellness, I mean, this is starting to be and it's Mental Health Awareness Month, right? It's May that we're recording this episode. So I would encourage everyone to identify what is one way that you can try to improve your overall mental health and mental wellness, right? Research shows that if you're able to improve your emotional intelligence, improve your psychological emotional resilience, you can be able to perform better at the work that you do. You're going to be able to enhance your relationships, improve your overall life satisfaction. And one thing we know, one of the top 5 mental health challenges that everyone experiences is sleep issues. Okay. I don't know about you, but I for sure, experienced some sleep issues. And I guess my 1 month twin daughters are not maybe helping those sleep
You got
issues.
1-month-old twin daughters.
Yeah.
Boy,
So,
you aren't sleeping at all.
so one thing I would encourage everybody listening to this is download the Better Sleep app. Okay, Better Sleep app is one of the top sleep apps in the world. Over 65 million subscribers and downloaders right now. And I'm actually one of the content creators on the app. Okay. So you can just search my name, Dr. Ryan Warner. And my colleague and I actually created a 21-day sleep reset program. So it's a mindfulness meditation app that ultimately provides some psychoeducation on how to improve your overall sleep to ultimately enhance your performance and life satisfaction. So everyone download that. You can actually listen to our first, I think, 6 episodes totally free without paying anything. And if you want to listen to the rest of the episodes, you can just subscribe to that. So
Wait, go back. What was the name it again?
it's called Better Sleep. Better Sleep is the app, one of the top sleep apps in the world. And yeah, you'll be able to find it easily on the Apple or Android App Store.
Perfect.
Mhm. Yep. So yeah, go in there, download it, type in my name at the top of the search box, or click on meditations, and you'll be able to see the 21 sleep reset program, and also listen to some other content I got out there. So yeah, take a listen to that. Reach out to me on LinkedIn as well to let me know your thoughts, and yeah, I'm always here to support.
I'm gonna guess that the app doesn't factor in 1-month-old twins.
So yeah, you can actually there's so many cool things you can do in there. There's a sleep tracker, so you
Okay.
can like go through this quiz, and you can put in the different challenges you're experiencing right now and the different things that happen in your life. You can track your sleep over time. You can measure progress. I mean, so many cool things they can help you with. But yeah, again, I think over billions of listens thus far, and we have over 65 million subscribers. So I'm just happy to be able to contribute to that app, and in turn, yeah, make an impact, when it comes to individuals listen to that worldwide. So,
How much sleep should an adult be getting?
that can vary, but I mean, I think in
How much
our,
sleep do you want to get every night?
I would personally like 8 hours, 7 to 8, I think is, optimal, but it's not about quantity all the time. It's also about quality. Okay. So we can be in bed 8 hours, but are we actually sleeping 8 hours? Right. So, but listen to the sleep reset program, and I go all into that,
Yeah.
about how you can improve your quantity and quality.
So how does well, we kind of already went over this, but how do people get in touch with you?
So you can, number one, find me on LinkedIn, Ryan C. Warner, PhD. You can also Google my name, Dr. Ryan C. Warner. My information will come up. You can also visit my website at www.rcwarnerconsulting.com.
Now, is that people can look into hiring you for their company from that website?
Yep. So you can reach out there. Maybe if your organization is looking for speakers on topics related to inclusion or wellness, or maybe you want individual coaching for yourself. Maybe you're trying to figure out how to progress through your career, or you would like wellness coaching to improve your overall mental health and wellness. You can also reach out to the website to inquire about that. But if anything, feel free to everybody DM me on LinkedIn and say you listened to this podcast episode and tell me your thoughts. It'd be great to hear from listeners.
Yeah, we will. Hope we could get some comments and send them your way. Well, I do thank you for jumping on the call today. One shameless plug for the Houston Illini Club. Our focus is bringing our Houston family, the Houston Illini family, closer. Club has tons of special events, Illini game watch parties. We also raise scholarship funds for Houston area graduating high school students who will attend the University of Illinois in the coming fall. I know our goal is $4,000 this year. I really hope we can hit that goal and, maybe even eventually underwrite someone's entire tuition. I know that's going to be expensive at some point someday. But hey, Dr. Warner, thank you so much for joining us on the Houston 3-in-1 show. Join us next week. We appreciate you. ILL.
Yeah. I and I.
All right. See you soon.